So because 538 and RCP have decided to stop putting out polls since Friday for whatever reason, no polls are releasing. So we're going to do our 1 month out election prediction. It is now uh, just under a month. It's 1 day under a month because I'm late anyway. Doesn't matter. We'll get straight into it. And we will be going in a different order. Usually we go across from the west coast over to the east and then leave our swing states and talk about them. But this time we're going to be going from safe to likely to lean to tilt. So we're going to start with the Republican safes. We have Idaho, which no question is going to stay red. Maybe next time, if Oregon, this eastern Oregon area, was to secede into Idaho, it will become perhaps the most Republican state, competing with Wyoming, Tennessee. But that's not going to happen right now. So, and that's for next cycle anyway. We have Utah, of course, no big third-party candidate again this time, so really nothing to worry about for Republicans in Utah. No one eating into the vote share. Wyoming, we just talked about it, probably the safest state for Republicans in the country. Montana, fairly close Senate race. I mean, it's over 6 points, I think, now, but that's going to be deep red on the presidential level. North and South Dakota are always deep red. Nebraska, with the 1st and 3rd districts and at large, is going to go red. We have Kansas, Oklahoma, these are both going to go above 10. We have Missouri, which on a terrible, if Donald Trump had a terrible cycle, if Ron DeSantis was the nominee, or Nikki Haley, definitely, then this could probably go likely, and the same goes for Louisiana. They're probably both around 10 to 15 points, probably more like 13 to 15. But again, they're over 10. Arkansas is going to stay red. Tennessee, again, one of the most Republican states. Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, these go without saying. We had an Indiana poll come out the other day, plus 14, so no need to worry about that one. Mississippi, despite some Democrat talk over the whole cycle, to be honest, Mississippi's not going anywhere. Alabama, and they weren't talking about flipping the state, but they were talking about it being under 10, not going to happen. Alabama is going to, of course, be Republican. And South Carolina is going to be the last one we're going to fill in here. So 122 for the Republicans in this first wave. Now we go to the Democrats, and immediately we're going to go down the Pacific Coast. Maybe, Oregon's been a weird one. The polling's been weird there. They vote by mail. It's another cheeky fact. I'm giving you an Oregon fact file here. But it's going to stay blue. It's going to be over 10 points. There's no point even considering it being under 10. Hawaii is going to stay blue, despite the reaction to the wildfires. Maybe that's faded out of people's memories, I guess. I mean, it's one of the most liberal states anyway. It's not like it was going to flip, but it certainly didn't help the reaction to the wildfires there a few years ago. Colorado is going to be deep blue. Again, it's probably somewhere between 9 to 12 points at the moment, maybe 8 to 12, but it again doesn't really matter. It's probably going to be safe. It's not like it's going to flip, so who cares? We have Illinois, which is around 14 points. That's going to stay blue. We have Maryland. That's going to be blue, deep blue. DC, of course. I mean, that's going to take some shifting to make DC anything but safe blue. We have Delaware, which maybe could fade into likely if things go really bad for Harris, but at the moment staying deep blue. Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut, this New England trio, they're going to stay deep blue, and Vermont, of course, is going to stay blue, perhaps the second most liberal constituency and the most liberal state. New York is going to be above 10, so it's probably anywhere between 13 to 20 right now. It could be anywhere in that sort of range. New York's kind of all over the place at the moment in the polling. Maine's 1st district as well is going to go deep blue. And these are all the safe states. So now we can go into the likely states. These are the states that are going to be between 5 and 10 points. So we have Alaska, which is probably going to be closer to 10 than it is to 5. But it's one that people aren't really talking about because it's not really in play. People talk about Texas, most people know Texas is not in play. But they talk about, well, it could go under 3 or so. Alaska's not one of those. But it's Yeah, it's definitely shifting left, and it's going under the radar, I think. But Alaska there is going to stay Republican for this cycle, but one to watch for 2028. Iowa is going to be over 5. We had the gold standard poll that said it was 4, but again, Republicans often underestimated. And there was something about the that poll. Their final poll was accurate, very accurate in that state in 2020, but at that point that they put the poll out this time, in the last cycle, at that point, they were quite a few points off. So Iowa is going to be probably under 10. I mean, it's like Alaska again. It's probably going to be closer to 10 than it is to 5. I'd probably say between. I mean, I had it deep red for a while, so it's probably between 8 and 12. A bit like Colorado, maybe, where on a really good uh, well, probably a bit closer than Colorado, but on a really good um, election night, Iowa could maybe go to 5 or 6 points, but that's a really good night. Anyway, Ohio's probably going to be the same. It's these have both shifted or rocketed to the right over the last few years. They are not going to be in play really this time around. Texas is going to be over 5. I think it's probably between 6 and 8 at the moment. Florida is probably about 9 points at the moment. Definitely one that could go over 10, which is just remarkable how that shift has happened from 2016 then into 2020. It was 4 points or so, and now it could be deep red, which is incredible. I mean, maybe you have to give credit to Ron DeSantis on that one. Anyway, do we have any more Republican leans? I don't think we do. So we are going to go to the Democrat leans, and that's going to be New Mexico, which is probably between 6 and 9. If I was going to put a marker down, I'd probably say 7 points at the moment. Again, not in play. I mean, if the Harris campaign capitulated, then if you're the Trump campaign, you start maybe looking at New Mexico. But again, it's just about getting the job done. You've got Nebraska, the second district, the winner take all deadline. I don't know if it's passed yet, but it's not going to happen. So that's pretty much a done deal. Nebraska, the second district, will be going blue, and Nebraska will be splitting its electoral votes again. So we have New Jersey, which is one that not many people are talking about, but I think could be under 10 sneakily. New Hampshire, again, probably between 7 and 9. Maine at large, again, probably between 8 and 10. These states, these electoral votes are out of range for Republicans, but they are worth noting that these states are maybe shifting one way or the other. Maybe they're going further away, a bit like a New Hampshire, it's going more liberal. A New Jersey is moving more to the right, but it's interesting to see these patterns change. And the last likely state is going to be Minnesota here, which I think is probably between 5 and 7 points. So we've gone through the safe states, we've gone through the likely states, and we are almost deadlocked at 218 to 213. Now, we only have 2 leans here, or at least leans outside the swing states. So we have Virginia, where we're going to call it a lean. A lot of people have it as a likely, and I think you are, you're not wrong to have that viewpoint. Of course, we're all subjective, but I tend to think it's about 4.7 points. This is just a rough number I'm putting out there, but I think it's probably around that range. I think it's a lot closer than people think. The polling is suggesting it's closer than the consensus, and I think it's even closer than the polling, which is just what we've learned from over the years with Donald Trump. He gets underestimated in pretty much every state in terms of polling. Now, we go to Maine, this second district. I think it's going to lean Republican. You could 100% put this in likely. I think it's probably the same as Virginia, probably 4.7 points. And I actually think this is less likely to flip than Virginia. I think Virginia goes red before Maine would go blue. Maine second district, that is. So that's all of the non-swing states. So now we can start talking more in depth. We can look at averages, we can look at polling, and we can talk about these states. So we'll get Nevada out of the way first, the least important state, because it is 6 electoral votes, and the paths to victory it opens up are not many. So Nevada, I've got as a lean Democrat. RCP's polling average, has Nevada as the best Democrat state at 1.1, and we know that Republicans more often than not get overestimated. It's an outlier state. They get overestimated in the state. Obviously, Trump's done a lot in terms, in particular the no tax on tips, which Harris piggybacked, and I'm not sure Nevada voters were too happy about that one, but maybe that's, again, people forget things, and this was a few months ago now, and it's not really the end of the world that she did that. It's obviously not a good look, but I think Nevada is probably now the safest blue state of them all. It's only gone red once since 2004, or it's only gone red once since 2000, which was 2004. So Nevada, I think, is going to stay with its roots and stay blue. And that puts Harris at 232 and Trump is at 219. So a lead at the moment for Harris and Walz. But Trump and Vance are going to take some more states off the board. Right now, Arizona is going to be a lean. It's going to take Trump to 230. Arizona, probably the most Republican state. I mean, Georgia's now overtaken it in RCP average. But I think Arizona, there's no question, it's going to go red. A lot of your, abortion is a big issue down there. But actually, Trump's doing better with people who see abortion as a key issue. He's doing better with them. He's saying it's going back to the states. I'm not going to impose a federal ban. He denounced Ron DeSantis's ban in Florida. And, maybe that's going to cost him religious voters in somewhere like Alabama, who were going to be more hardline on that. But maybe you need to sacrifice those voters to get these swing state voters. These are more important. It's the old paradox that Pennsylvania, for example, are going to get their priorities, or they're going to be prioritized more than somewhere like Wyoming. Well, obviously because it's a smaller state, but say somewhere like Kentucky then, because it's a swing state, and you need to appeal to these voters to get into office. We have Georgia, which is going to also be a lean to Trump, and again, RCP says it's the most Republican state at the moment. It's certainly not looked like a Democrat win. It's never really looked like the Democrats were going to win it, even when Harris came in, and you thought, oh, she's going to appeal to the black voters that won Biden Georgia last time. That really never happened, and she never really took a lead in Georgia. I mean, we could go even to 538 and look at their tracking of the state. She's taken, tiny leads here and there, but really not what anyone expected, not what I expected. I certainly thought that the black vote reaction would be a lot better for Harris, and again, she's struggling with black men more than she should be, but black men make up less of the black electorate than, of course, women. So, really, a curious one in Georgia, probably just general shifts to the right, and, obviously you get the Alabama sort of voter down there in Georgia, which is the strong religious, or deeply religious voter that are always going to go for the religious candidate. I mean, Harris is probably religious, but only in name. I think Trump really, of course, appeals to those kinds of voters. Anyway, we have 4 states left, and I do have another Republican lean, and that would be Wisconsin. Now, this is going to be deeply unpopular, as Wisconsin is the second most liberal state, according to RCP, that's left on the board, or at least the second most likely to go for the Democrats. But, again, we come back to this. Wisconsin, this time, last cycle, Hillary Clinton, or the cycle before last, Hillary Clinton up 5.5, she lost the state. Joe Biden up 5.6, he narrowly won the state. So, and Wisconsin polling bias, as we always say, the number we always come back to, 6 to 7 points off. In both cycles, 16 and 20, it was 6 to 7 points underestimating Donald Trump. Now, again, I'm not saying he's going to win the state by 6, because then I'd have it in the likely column. But I certainly don't think it's as close as people think it is. I think, again, whatever it is down there, and I tend to think it's the silent Trump voter. It's more socially acceptable now to say that you're a Donald Trump supporter. just out in public in your job, oh, I'm voting for Donald Trump, it's kind of become more normal. Whereas at first, in 2016 and maybe even 2020, people were shy to admit that. That's why he was underestimated in the polls. But that doesn't just disappear. And I think you could see even a 2% polling underestimation of Donald Trump, he's going to win the state. So I think Wisconsin may be sneakily out of reach. Of course, it could be that the polling's just they've accounted for that, and now this time it's right. But we'll have to see. I tend to think I'm trying to not be the same as everyone else. I'm going to give you some alternative viewpoints. New Jersey, most people are going to have that safe. I'm going to have it as a likely. Virginia, I have as a lean. Most people are going to have that as a likely. Wisconsin, most people are going to have it blue. I've got it red. So now we're into our tilt states. These are the last three. We have 3 tilt states, and the first is Michigan, which is going to go blue. Michigan, I would probably say now, I mean, for the whole cycle, it's been the most likely to go blue. Now it's probably second most likely. I certainly don't think Wisconsin is above it in terms of how likely it is to go liberal, to go Democrat. So I've got Michigan tilting to Harris, but it's definitely it's narrowing. Michigan is narrowing, and we can see that again in the tracking of the polling. Michigan, it's getting closer and closer and closer, and now it's at 1.5%, and RCP has it at under 1%. And we can look at the polls in here. There's this Atlas one which is going to bring Trump up, but there's a Bloomberg one that's going to bring Harris up. Again, overall, I think it's probably 1 to maybe 2 points. Maybe you could put it in likely. You'd be well within your right, or lean rather. You'd be well within your rights to do that. But I think Michigan is going to tilt at the moment as things stand. It's going to tilt blue. But if that's a tilt, Trump could definitely wipe the board of the swing states, maybe excluding Nevada. But again, Nevada's the least important. If you're sweeping the board, I guess none of them really matter. But we have North Carolina next. And again, if you give this one to Republicans, Trump would win the election. And I'd give it to Republicans. You see the response there, and the $750 given to families, and it's not very popular, and Harris is getting tied to these things more than she ever has been, of course, because she's the presidential candidate, but that's what the Trump campaign needs to do. They need to tie her to these things and say she's part of these policies that Joe Biden's putting out there. And Joe Biden said it himself, she has the last word on every law that's been passed. She's been involved in all of that. So while she's trying to distance herself, Joe Biden's reeling her back in. It's quite a comedy to watch. You get the feeling Joe Biden wasn't so happy about being axed from this campaign, and with the Trump hat thing, and of course you can say it's a joke, and it was a joke, but is there something more there with the hat thing, with the firefighters, and he puts the Trump hat on, and who knows, maybe he's just out of it and he's off his medication, so he's just all over the place. But again, I think North Carolina, Trump's won it in 2016, he won it in 2020, I think he's going to win it again in 2024. And then you have Pennsylvania. Trump's been there recently. He's been to Butler, where the assassination attempt was. I think this is a genius move. Now again, if you're new to the channel, which most people are, in fact, I'm going to make a point here. 99% of the viewers are not subscribed, so if you'd be so kind, that would be great. 1.4% are subscribed, so thank you very much to you people. But if you're not subscribed, get on that now, because you can get a British perspective of American politics. Anyway, Pennsylvania. Trump's in Butler, Pennsylvania. He's reminding people of the assassination attempt, which a lot of people forgot about, and that could make a difference, because you're talking, again, it's not about changing people's minds. This election has never been about it's never been 2012, where you're trying to convince people that you're right and your economic policy is right. It's more about turnout. It's about, can you get your people out there? And I think the going to Butler again, reminding people, energizing people, getting them on the early voting, because early voting started, so these are votes that he could be getting right now, going there and making the jokes with the immigration chart and all that. and it gets around. You get more people voting, not only in that part of the country, but then you get the viral videos from it that go around. I think that's a very, very smart move. Of course, you know, maybe emotional for him, but a very smart move, and I think it could help him net Pennsylvania. But again, the last few months, I think I did one video. I had Pennsylvania going blue in the last 2 months. I'm going to have it going red again. You could probably put it as a lean, to be honest, if you want. It's a tie on RCP, which probably means Trump's up. But I'd have it as a Trump win. Not that it would decide the election. I mean, you give this to Harris, it's still a Republican win. And this is what I mean. Again, Trump's locking her out of 270 electoral votes. He takes Georgia, Arizona, which we know, they're pretty much secure. He takes North Carolina, which he's a lot more likely to do than people seem to let on. Obviously, because they try and tie Trump to the Robinson thing down there with the governorship, and I don't think that's ever really happened. Again, people vote for like West Virginia. They voted. They had a Democratic governor, and they were one of the deepest red states in the country. So it's never really worked like that. The presidential level will maybe affect the down ballot tickets, like we saw with Joe Biden when he pulled out. He said that was why, but I don't think that's ever going to work reversed. So I think North Carolina, if he locks that down, Georgia, Arizona, all he needs is a Wisconsin, which again, you're kind of two separate camps on Wisconsin. You think the polling is maybe more accurate than it has been, and I still think that, but I think the discrepancy in the polling is going to rear its head again, and I think Trump's going to take Wisconsin by a margin that people weren't expecting. But again, if he takes those 4 states, it's over. Or if he takes Georgia, North Carolina, which again, probably 2 of them. I think North Carolina is more likely to go red than Wisconsin, actually. But I think that, because Wisconsin, it's either going to be the polling's right and Trump is down, or the polling's wrong and Trump is up. That's what it's going to be. But I think you're looking at your second and third most likely states to go red, and then you just need to pick off Pennsylvania, and that's it. That's all you need. And then Wisconsin can go blue, Arizona can go blue. It doesn't matter. But anyway, my final prediction, 1 month out from the election, 291 to 247. Let me know what you think of that in the comments below. Whether you think it will be more for Republicans, whether you think it will be less for Republicans, or whether you think Harris is going to win. I mean, that would be quite the change from this map. But do let me know. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Please subscribe, because after the election we'll be cracking into the numbers, and again, I'll be giving you an outsider's perspective on your politics. So get involved, get subscribed, and you'll see more content from me very soon. Thank you.